Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Not a whole lot of news happening in Iraq. Let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Miles Franklin. The link will be down below in the description. When you make your purchase, make sure you use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they'll take care of you. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us over here at this phone number or over here at this particular email. For all orders over $10,000, reach out by email and we'll make sure that you get a great deal. So come on over to Miles Franklin and add to your precious metal inventory. Since Iraq is developing a joint cooperation strategy, Washington intends to remain in Baghdad despite the negotiations. Well, we knew that was going to happen. We know that the Iranian-backed politicians wanted our military out of Iraq. We know that Kurdistan wanted our military to stay in Iraq. And we know that our military wasn't going to leave Iraq. They are the gateway into the Middle East. Not just that, we are building new military bunkers right smack dab next to the oil fields and all the other resources that are there in Iraq. So they weren't going to go anywhere. Although I think it's interesting that they continue to use ISIS as the excuse to stay there. You'd have thought by now that ISIS was gone. So you can see right here, it says there is no imminent plans for withdrawal. It says Iraq is a founding country of the international coalition and plays a leadership role in it. The American official confirmed that there are bilateral discussions with Iraq in order to establish a permanent framework for security cooperation between the two countries without referring to withdrawal. I mean, we've been there for years. If by now we haven't finished training them, then either we're terrible teachers or that never was the reason for us staying. Al-Dulami, if America had not intervened, the liberated cities would have remained occupied until now. A representative of the Kurdistan Democratic Party, Al-Dulami, today praised the efforts of the international coalition led by the United States of America during its support of the security forces during their operations against terrorist organizations ISIS. Dulami stated in a statement received by the news that terrorist organization ISIS was defeated by the efforts of the international coalition and participation of the Iraqi security forces, but they seem to still be lingering around. So like I said, Kurdistan doesn't want the United States to leave. Between Baghdad and Turkey and Iran, people wouldn't stop picking on them for the longest time. The Iraqi central bank confirms to the news the provisions of the 5 foreign countries as an alternative to the dollar for merchants. The crazy thing is, this is a new article, but all they're doing is talking about the same countries we spoke about several times. You have the euro, the Chinese yuan, the Turkish lira, the Emirate dirham, and the India rupee are the currencies they're talking about. So merchants will have the option to use those currencies when making purchases from those countries. It said these currencies have become available to merchants for the purpose of financing foreign trade. When a merchant imports goods from China, he can now pay the Iraqi Dinar to the Iraqi bank, and through the bank, the amount will be paid to the Chinese company and factory in the Chinese currency, the yuan. An economist, electronic payments will reduce demand for foreign currencies in Iraq. They just started using them in Iraq, and now they're wanting to do away with them. Okay. So an economist stressed that the electronic payment will increase investment opportunities by depositing money into banks, while he pointed out that the ATM card increased to 1 million cards during this year. The process of switching to electronic payment reduces the cash payment of the currency, thus reducing demand for the foreign currency and increasing confidence in the local currency. Only about 15% of Iraqi cash is deposited in the banks. Wow, that's better than the 9% that they stated last year, so they're up to 15%, is that right? Noting that the increase in the bank deposits is used for investment purposes instead of disappearing with the citizens. The need to put the benefits to the bank deposit process for the purpose of encouraging citizens. Citizens are afraid of hacking and forgery in electronic cards, so it must be directed to add security elements such as the adoption of the eye and fingerprint. It sounds like an excuse to me. The ATM cards increased to 1 million cards during this year, and this indicates the high rates of applications of electronic payment system. Look, the Iraqi people have a hard time trusting their banks and having a hard time switching out of cash, which a lot of people should feel that way. I mean, I don't trust what the banks are trying to do right now, and I've been complaining about that for a long time. But because of this, they hold on to the Iraqi dinar, giving Iraq a liquidity issue. So the president of the republic, Iraq has doubled its oil production to 4.7 million barrels over the past 10 years. Said it has become clear that the world needs the stability of the energy sector and the confidence of this stability, just as it needs the energy itself. President Rashid said in a speech during the 7th summit of heads of state and governments of the Forum of Gas Exporting Countries. He added global efforts are still focused on balancing energy securities with reducing emissions, and energy shortages are no less harmful than the effects of warming on human beings. There are nearly 1 billion people in the world who lack access to energy sources. He also pointed out that despite all the challenges, the Ministry of Oil in Iraq has doubled its production to 4.7 million barrels during the past 10 years, with Iraq alone occupying its contributions to 1/5 of the global increase in production. He said, "We have launched the projects complementary to the 5th round and the projects of the 6th round, which are mostly promising gas fields," stressing the approval of the Council of Ministers of the recommendations to establish the liquefied gas platform in the large Port of Fall, which is the first of its kind in the country in order to enhance energy security and diversify its sources. He said, "We are making deliberate steps to exploit gas," and before the end of 2023, a gas project was operated, noting that this year the ministry is currently making great efforts to launch more than one gas project in multiple regions of Iraq. Let's go, Iraq. So Barzani's advisor reveals developments of resumption of the region's oil exports and date of Erdogan's visit to Iraq. So not that long ago, there was an article in which Turkey agreed to pay some billions of dollars in back fees for the oil it was getting from Kurdistan directly to Baghdad. So once that's paid, I'm sure they'll resume oil then. You can see right here, it says the issue of resuming the region's oil exports, with Erbil and Baghdad reaching a final agreement in this regards, expecting the Turkish president, Erdogan, will visit Iraq after the local elections are held in his country. With regards to the resumption of oil exports of the Kurdistan region, again, through the port of Sina, the Republic of Turkey is ready for this. But this issue is more about Baghdad, he says, stressing that once Erbil and Baghdad reach a final agreement, the export process of Kurdistan oil will start again. That's the issue, though. The agreement between Erbil and Baghdad. This thing has been dragging on for years. Regarding the expected visit of the president of Turkey, Erdogan is scheduled to visit Baghdad as well as Erbil after the Turkish municipal election, saying that this visit will be a factor in strengthening bilateral relations with Iraq in general and the Kurdistan region in particular. More good news from the Central Bank of Iraq. The central bank announces the increase in the size of its reserves to more than 100 billion. What does oil have to do with it? Whoa, what's oil got to do with it? The central bank attributed the increase in Iraqi reserves of the dollar to the stability of oil export imports, which it said reflected on the financing of external trade activity and support for the dinar. The deputy governor of the bank said in a press statement followed by the news that the Central Bank of Iraq recorded an increase in its reserve of more than 100 billion currently. Man, that's adding a lot of money to the amount they already had. I mean, they would have 148 trillion, and now they added another 100 billion. This is awesome for Iraq because, like I said, having those foreign currency reserves does a great job in stabilizing your currency, supporting it, and making it stronger. He said the stability of Iraqi oil export imports contributed to an increase in monetary reserves and was also reflected in the financing of external trade activities and support for the dinar, which is what they just said up here. So there you have it. Iraq still doing what it needs to do to continue to move down a positive path, and we all support that. Anyways, that's it for now. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll catch you later. I am out.